the God's honest truth on independence and statehood of actually all 10 provinces currently in the Dominion of Canada and their 3 territories as they are. When you go to research independence, it will tell you 6 provinces have explored statehood or independence with the United States of America. That's factually incorrect. Sure, under the 1867 Dominion of Canada, that may very well be true, but not in all history of British North America, and even changes of provinces from British Quebec after the 7-Year War, which encompassed Ontario, a much smaller population. In fact, every single province, whether it was a territory or a territory of the colony of British North America, has at some point in their history pursued independence for statehood with the USA. I'm going to give you international law, what I presented in 2019, that it's funny is left out of all Oxford now, because I'm the first to present in a majority, effectual majority, meaning running for a premier of a province under independence, true independence, following international binding law. That is P5 penmanship, meaning you have 3 permanent representatives to go forward with said region's independence. It's happened throughout the world since 1945, 83 times. It's why there are now 193 nations, not 52. That was the big change of the world, going all the way from 1945 to most recent South Sudan in 2005, done by the Allies of World War II. Now, for a country like Canada, with its deep colonial ties and colonial creations of the Commonwealth and of French Pacific colonial world, France and UK will never, ever accept that. I knew that going into it. All I needed what was called penmanship. 3 of those countries. That's United States, China, and Russia. That is the legal international platform for independence of any region in Canada. Any province, any territory could pursue that for its right to gain independence if it won a referendum sponsored and conducted by a P3 penmanship from the victorious allies of World War II, known as United Nations Security Council, permanent 5 members. You need 3 in penmanship and no veto from the other 2, which UK and France, standing against USA, Russia, and China, would not get that. We did monumental work with China. Russia didn't come on board until a little after, but I did win them after the fact. Had USA on board initially, we had a transition with Joe Biden where we lost them, Trump back. Yes, everybody. Like all history of Canada's British North America and Canada, the country, the Dominion, all provinces and territories, since George Washington, folks, literally since the War of Independence leading up and into the War of Independence, yes, even George Washington marching armies into Atlantic Canada and other provinces, Acadia, all of it, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, rich and oldest history, as well as currently what is Ontario, the largest and biggest source of it, then being Montreal. And why? Its key date, folks, 1848-49. That was when we lost all trade with the United Kingdom. We got tariffed at 100% for all our goods. People are bitching about Donald Trump today. Well, you went through this history absolutely in Eastern Canada for what is now Quebec and what is now Ontario. Both of them aggressively pursued it. And in fact, in Montreal, they had a manifesto on statehood. What does that legally require? Only a P1, namely the United States of America, if you're pursuing statehood. You can just get the USA. Does that give you international recognition as a country? No, that's why you can't gain independence. But you can get recognized by USA, and that would really breach Canada. Canada would go to war with you economically, barrier-wise. But for all 10 provinces bordering the United States, there's nothing stopping the United States from giving you some kind of trade arrangement. Would it be great? No. Would they force statehood? No. You, the people, have to decide that. You have to get that done. Alberta gaining independence without the P5, meaning a P3 penmanship, you're not going to be legally recognized as a country in this world. And if you ever want to know about it, there's actually 215 would-be countries in the world. 193 with recognition, and then sadly 12 who've always remained in limbo. There was even more than that, but there are 12 limbo regions in the world not recognized as countries, still under the thumb of some P5 member, never being a country, never being a part of that P5 member, stuck in limbo. It's all over the world for you to look at. There's even territories divided up by the P5 or through the P5 for recognized supporting countries under them, where literally lands are divided and nobody can live between them. It's a no movement zone. It's probably what's going to become of Ukraine. They're going to be probably a much smaller country with a no-go zone between them and Russia. No military, no nobody. Not Russians, not Ukrainians, not NATO, not anybody. A buffer. That's honestly what's going to happen. If you ever want to know the legal international truth to this, there are 12 such cases in the world today. And there would have been more, but those countries don't exist, as there's resolutions with the United Nations Security Council. They said you have X amount of years to decide what you want to do. And they decided not to do. They said, yeah, we don't need your P5. We don't recognize you. And they were eaten, literally destroyed, no longer exist. Those people have been assimilated into other countries, including P5 member states. So if you think that you're special as a Canadian in any region on independence, and you think that you're going to gain that through Canada's model, Clarity Act and system of Crown, you're sadly mistaken. Now, I gave the legal path. I gave that in 2019. We ran a majority that the media will never showcase to you. I'm hardly even highlighted, even though the election exists. But that was 67 out of 87 candidates. Clear majority. We blew the Liberal Party out of the water. Way bigger, way stronger, way more effectual, and destroyed them in votes. Nobody likes to talk about that. Just like they don't want to talk about Plamondon and the PQ right now, who's sitting stronger than any other time in their history for independence. Again, they're going through the Canadian model system that they likely wouldn't win even if they win a referendum. It's the rest of the country. It's all the baloney. It's the negotiations, the debt, all this crap Canada puts. Jump through the ring of fire, go 500 feet down and land in a water bucket. If you mess that up in any way, you're dead, right? That's how Canada does it. It's designed to fail. It's for Alberta, Quebec, anybody. And again, in all of British North America's history, Every single province and current territory as the Dominion of Canada has absolutely explored independence for statehood of the Union. American presidents, starting with George Washington, have gone through this entirely. Half USA presidents have been involved in this, and they span the Democrats and Republicans alike. Whether or not you have this history, whether or not people want to present it, that's real. You need to source AI with keyword searches. You really have to pry it, because Oxford has an overwhelming presence over AI today. Will that exist with USA's growing AI and new coming up AI systems in the next 10 years? No. And all the things I teach today that I've been teaching for 10 years will be common AI knowledge, and it will be in majority worldwide. And a lot of people wake up then. Obviously, it's not beneficial for us now, but you really have to be very clear about your words. You really have to pry on AI, because its sources are designed to showcase not that. And that if you don't get it right in key years, in words, names of territories, knowing that Ontario was British Quebec. In fact, a lot of America was British Quebec under the UK crown. Folks, if you don't highlight those current provincial regions as they were, or provinces as former territories, namely the Northwest Territory, you're not going to get an accurate truth on Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nunavut, Yukon, none of it. You won't get that truth. You'll learn, if you go through all real history, as your boundaries have been and changed over time, literally from 1763 onward, you'll learn that every single region in Canada now today has explored statehood at a pretty aggressive level. The most aggressive being not only Atlantic Canada, but Ontario, that you'll find isn't even named in that absolute truth. Right now, the Chinese are erasing Markham County. You all watched that election where it was liberal Chinese rep, conservative Chinese rep, who turned out to be a liberal Chinese rep for communist China. They're all communists. There's no doubt about that. Liberal and conservative. They want to erase America, that union of USA. They don't want you to know, especially in Ground Zero, Ontario, the central part of Canada, that almost all of the populist Ontario today has aggressively explored not only a limited statehood unrecognized, but absolutely a 51st state of the United States of America. Before there was 50 states, it would have been like 46, but I just used that to make it simple. But in those years, go look at states of the Union. Look where Texas was. Actually, it would have been in the 20s, I'm sorry. But that is the truth and reality. And from the 13, there were actually currently Canadian provinces of Atlantic Canada that were military hosts of George Washington and his army. Yeah. Under the first U.S. Constitution that came after, Atlantic Canada was actually supporting George Washington and the 13 colonies. You'll find all that. Why don't you get any information about Newfoundland? Because Newfoundland didn't join the the Dominion of Canada till 1952, through 49 to 52. And why? Because King George VI Atlantic Charter and promise to end the UK crown, no more Governor Generals from UK, no more Lieutenant Governors. Newfoundland came in thinking that they would actually be like a State of the Union, because they were looking at Maine before that, and they were tricked, duped, because as soon as King George VI died, Newfoundland was betrayed, shortly thereafter losing Labrador in a dirty dollar deal to Quebec, and that is the sad history of Canada. All lies, all deeply hidden on all Oxford systems, but when you go to Webster, it's all there for you. America does not lie, and I promise you all, whether you want to believe me now today or not, I could go grab these historical documents, grab them. I know I tagged Benjamin Ebley in this. He's pumped out massive, showing you all kinds of what? Democrat and Republican presidencies always pushing this. What Canadian media is saying, especially the Tyree, which is a leftist, socialist, fascist publication from BC, and others. This is Communist Liberal Canada, Fascist Liberal Canada, which is also Socialist and Fascist Conservative Canada. They just don't know it. But same peas in the same pod, same effectual reality they've both been exploring through all of Canadian history since the start, 1867, the Dominion of Canada, going onward through the Indian Act they'll never get rid of. They're evil people, folks, who lie to their subjects, try to dumb them down through illiteracy and ignorance. And when I mean illiteracy, I don't mean your ability to read. It's what you're actually allowed to read that's not fiction, right? Canada's history is nothing but fiction with big gaping holes. America has filled all those holes, and they've aggressively, in every other presidency in the entire history of America, all of it, from the first Constitution to the current one, and all 250 years coming. This year, USA's explored that. Half of the presidencies, Democrat and Republican. Donald J. Trump isn't new. He's average. He's average. The honest average presidency. To be honest, what media says in Canada about running people like myself down, running us out, that somehow we're traitors, and I have Canadians threatening me, I'm sorry, I just roll it all over to the FBI in the United States. A lot of these people, these trolls, threatening my life or others' lives over this, you're on a database in the United States now. Hate to say it, your ability to travel, if you're one of those nut jobs, is gone. They'll have your IP address, they'll know who you are. There's no traitor in talking about independence or statehood. Never has been, never will be. We have a deep integration with the USA, and any attempt to breach that security trust and massive treaties that hold Canada together, UK-USA treaties, anyone talking against any of that or anybody proposing independence or statehood and threatening your life, you're going to be registered as a USA terrorist. That's a fact, because there's no other way to register you other than that. That's what you are, because you're an enemy of America. You want to pit communism, aka China, against USA, a fellow P5 member, you're going to lose epically. Chinese representatives to Canada have warned you, the Canadian people, and your politicians publicly, not only this year, but all of last year too. They said any attempt to pit us against the United States or attempt to use us will be met with serious repercussions. Economic, through sanctions, embargoes, and eventual military. And Canadians don't get that. I know you don't. Your government and its delusional socialist and fascist brain, the superior being brain, thinks that they can outwit, maneuver USA, China, Russia, any country they want under the guise of France and UK as P5 members. But we're not. We're not even designed that way. We have no historical treaties that put it that way. And what little we have left in this very limited 9% private property, a US-UK treaty system, that if Canada's the Dominion, you're going to have to make your own treaties if you're truly your own country. But we're not. And everyone should know that. And if you don't, that's on you. But like I said, this is reality. It's the God's honest truth. There's no magic in Trump supporting Alberta or soon to be supporting Quebec or Saskatchewan or anybody else. They won't force nothing. They can't give you international recognition, not without the others. Russia, I can promise you all, as I have contact with Deputy UNSC Representative Dmitry Plansky, pretty much number 3 for Russia on the world stage. I actually am in contact with him. And I'm probably one of the only, if only, Canadians, maybe not military and political parties, but I can tell you, when they did support us, they don't now. They don't support Alberta, Quebec, or anything Canada. Not after what Canada's done with Ukraine. And they look, they see even how Albertans act towards it, and they go, wow, you'd want independence, but you would deny our Russian oblasts the same thing? You'd go to war with us? We've lost Russia, I can promise you that. We've lost China. And the more Mark Carney tries to pay out China and infuse China in Canada against the United States, we're never going to win that Chinese support. Sorry to say. And we never had or ever will or ever going to have UK and France. If Canada broke apart that way, it would be the end of UK's colonial possessions all over the world, as well as France's. They will never, ever support any of you. They're deadly against you because you threaten their old world empire. And they'll never allow you. Never will. Don't look for support there. These lunatics that come out in support of Canada, who's going to soon to be massively, aggressively taxed. We're already beyond communist China, but we're really going to be sailing past into a serious, serious socialism of communist magnitudes not seen since the fall of the Soviet Union. America doesn't want to allow that to happen. They can't make Canadians, but there's a way for them to get their statehood totally outside of populous Canada in its 9%, where we're going to be left surrounded without that primary resource industry driven society that we need, where resources are what powers us, not the human resource. Completely opposite of the United States of America. And their human resource will trump us all day long, and they will lift out those resource-rich areas of Crown, land, provincial, and federal, as well as the entire Arctic. They will sweep that away. We're already seeing it when Mark Carney can't deliver on the F-35s, when Mark Carney can't deliver on NATO and NORAD promises, when Mark Carney can't deliver on the Golden Dome, when Mark Carney can't deliver on any of the free trade for USA that he gives willingly out to his colonial friends who make him rich too, all over the evil old world. Mark Carney's New World Order is communism, because they'll never give up their crown, and that's a good second place for them to end up. Heaven forbid we ever have the United States. But USA knows all this. They know their history. They know Canada's history. They know that truth. And I urge people to learn it. God bless. That's my video. Get it out there. It's true, credible, real, 100% verifiable. It's the evil of your crown, evil of your media, evil of an established elite society and class structure where we give specific people godlike powers over a less type of people and class. They have full control over us now, beyond any measure of history, besides what our ancestors left from those colonial kingdoms and came here as serfs, peasants, to scratch out a new kind of life, free from all of that, in somewhat private property. Now that's the truth of America entirely. They want it. It's not the truth of Canadians. You don't even have 1/9 of Canada. And of that 1/9, half of it's owned by the wealthy elite crown that rules over you as gods. That's the truth. federally and provincially. They'll never give that up. And any independence unrecognized on the world stage, even if backed by USA. And why does USA back it if it can't be recognized? Because it will force you into statehood. It will break up Canada and get them what they always wanted. A North America USA, which I want. I just don't want it the painful, broken way of bankruptcy and heartache and many decades of economic pain and third world status in an Arctic region, wherever you live in Canada. And this is what scares me, that the loving socialists and fascists are winning. They're winning against regular folks who just want to work, raise a family, and be treated in equality as real citizens. And it's sad that is losing ground to so much evil of an old empire that's not to be. Folks, that's my video, my truth. You can find it all for every single current region of Canada. You've explored it, you've begged for it, you've wanted it at some time in your ancestors' history in your region. In fact, all regions of Canada mapped out today. 10 provinces, 3 territories. They weren't always that, and they weren't always Canada. Look at it. Look at it for real. God bless. That's my video. Share, get it out there. Bye now.